1, 2, 3. And we're back. This is Colombia Calling. I'm Richard McColl here in Bogota, Colombia, 2,600 meters closer to the stars. And if you are a regular listener to the Colombia Calling podcast, our next guest will need no introduction. He's been on twice before. His name's Daniel Eggington. He's now officially an adventurer. I'm going to let him say what he's done, but those of you who follow me, who follow what we've been putting up online, will know what he's done, but it's kind of incredible. Certainly foolhardy, but he did it. Daniel, welcome back on the show.
Thanks for having me back again.
I am relieved. When I got the message earlier this year saying, all right, this is it. I'm going back to cross the western side of the Darien Gap, the Darien jungle. I was like, oh God, he's going to get turned back for the third time. So the twice you've been on before have been sort of attempts. And now this time you actually made it. So what happened this time that meant you could trek through the western side of the Darien?
I think it was the build-up of me networking with people, so many trips back and forward. Some people got to recognize my face. I worked with 2 people regularly on the Colombian side, and there was 1 person on the Panamanian side, and I was always in contact with them, telling my plans. But I think it was just point blank, not telling the authorities this time. I just literally got there, got into a hotel. Say hotel in Harare, it's a person's house, and they just rent their room. And I literally just stayed there, went out for food in the evening, went back, contacted the local fixer, so to speak, and I was like, what's happening? We need to meet to talk properly, to have a conversation. I said, okay, in the evening, meet me at the beach. So in the evening, I went to the beach, and I explained what I've explained to him in the past. I want to cross over the Darien. He's saying exactly what every other person has said. You can't do it. It's dangerous. You'll get kidnapped. People are in charge. They're not very nice. And I said, I understand all of that. And I've been to Colombia 5 times now doing recce trips, and Panama 4 times now. And he's like, I understand what he's saying, but the groups are in charge. And my first question to him on our first meeting, what group's in charge? Because all the outside sources, even risk analysis and top people who work in Colombia have always told me it's ELN. ELN's in charge. ELN are in charge. And I'm like, so I've asked him directly. He's like, no, it's the clan. So I'm thinking the worst group you can probably come across in Colombia after all the drama that happened in the last 12 months and I was like, oh, this is going to be another failure. And he said it's going to end up in tragedy. People are going to be looking for you. And I said, I'll do whatever I need to do. I'll pay whoever I need to. I'll meet people. I'll follow all the rules. He's like, okay, you sure? I can give you a different option. He said, I can get you to Cocalito on the boat, and you can explore Cocalito. My brother lives in Cocalito. It's very nice. And I said, I don't doubt it. It's beautiful. But my aim is to start in Jorado and end in Jaque, crossing over the border, overland. He's like, okay, wait for me. And I went back to my hotel, texting him, WhatsApping him whenever the signal worked, saying any news, probably 6-7 times a day. And he replied probably 2 or 3 times, but he was working on my behalf, and it came out. He said, okay. And it just the next day came, and it was 5 days of waiting in Jorado altogether.
Incredible. So, but the fixer came through in the end. You obviously had to pay him some money. I imagine it's quite a lot, because he had to then probably pay others.
Yeah. I got in touch with, I assume you know, Carlos Villalon.
Yes.
And I was in contact with him, expecting him to tell me what kind of rough prices would expected. And he did help me out quite a lot. He said he'll get in touch with people on the east side to then try and get in touch with people who are in charge on the Pacific side. And that didn't really work, because the groups are working and they're not very easily contactable. I then asked him, what kind of thing do you expect of the fee, so to speak? And he gave me a rough idea of what he's paid in the past, but he said it's alien to him, or it's foreign to him, because he's not been to the Pacific side, he's not familiar with them. And I said, oh, I'm expecting maybe $500. So I was like, I've got that on me, it's not an issue. And then when it finally came through, it was $1,200. I was like, oh, and it kind of made my heart drop, because each time in Gerardo, like the previous time, I've only had enough money to then return or to continue either Panama or go back to Solano. And I literally had only enough $1,200 equivalent in pesos, which is I don't know, about how much is it? So 2.4 million. I don't know, about 3 million maybe.
Yeah, it's around that.
And I ended up literally having that, and I had then dollars on me, and I wanted to look after the guy who helped me out. Then I gave him $100 in as in the only part of the US dollars that I had to then help me out in Panama. But yeah, it made my heart sink a little bit with the fee, but I had it exactly. But and I said I've got to do it now. It's either now or never, so to speak.
So let's wind right back to the beginning for our new listeners, because we have had an upturn. Why did this plan of crossing the Pacific side of the Darien Gap, where did it come from? Because the thing is, people have done the other side, and of course we read almost daily about these absolutely atrocious trek migrants trying to get to the USA do, and the deaths and so on. And of course the Pacific side is not a trekked one. You didn't see any migrants, I don't imagine. Or did you? No. And so
no.
Where did it come from, this desire?
I think back in I'd like to say 2015, I watched a film literally called The Darien, because I was always interested in travel and weird and wonderful, most unknown places, documentaries, films. I probably read every book on the Darien, watched every documentary on the Darien, keep up to date on the Darien. And I watched that film, and it was a bit dramatized, so to speak. But I then started thinking, oh, what a unique place. I started researching from way back then. And then I realized nobody, because the initial plan was to cross from the Panama down into Colombia. That was the initial plan, as in like the film did it. And once getting there, getting permission off Center Front, it didn't really come to fruition, so to speak. So then it was back to the drawing board. But the Pacific side was the place I had to cross, because there's no record of it. There's no account, so to speak, of people doing it. And so I put everything I could in my research and money in the last 7 years, going there, getting in touch with people, buying maps which were outdated. That's
so. I mean, it was the deal is that you just had to do it. I mean, there was no way around it, because the last time we talked, the second one, I spent about 35-40 minutes just telling you not to do it, through different manners, and I got a lot of emails from listeners just saying, they were saying, like, we tried to count how many times and how many different ways you told him not to do it, and I was actually kind of relieved that you were sent back by the military. But this time went through, and I suppose it's because you paid the money and you had the right fixes. So you prepared for this by doing, and we know this, you're up there, and I think the Brecon Beacons, and you're up there, hiking, but there's nothing quite like the Darien jungle. Tell us about this trek.
I think the preparation, what I was doing, Brecon, Peak District, Snowdon, wherever I was closer to with work here in the UK, I'd be doing 10 miles with full rucksack on, and now doing that, and I'm doing hill reps, and I would copy army training and what they would be doing in the UK, and I would literally just do hill reps. But I would do 10 miles. I wouldn't do more than 10 miles in Brecon, because my aim was to do 5 to 7 when I'm in the Darien, because it was just going to be so hard. But if I could go back and train, I would train on walking up rivers. The hardest thing, walking up rivers against the current, and then climbing 700 meters. That literally put me in bits. But yeah, walking up rivers, that would be the next. If I was to prep again, it would be.
And the rivers, I mean, these rivers that you encountered there in the Darien, I mean, were they full rivers? It was raining, and how high was the water up in your body?
We had 7 full river crossings in what we had to do in the first 2 days, and it was the major rivers after that. But we had to stop on the first night because the river was just swollen, and he's like, there's no chance. And I've got like video and pictures of it, and me recording how powerful the river is, and it's just chucking down the rain. I was like, I agree with him, and it would be a death sentence trying to cross certain rivers, certain times of the day when it's a certain level. And that's, I think, local knowledge and preparation. It builds you up to it.
It's interesting you say about the river walking against the current. Yeah, and it's rainy season. It is the rainforest. I mean, it's the jungle. And then you said the climbing. To me, 700 meters doesn't sound like a lot, but it was mud and jungle. I mean, what? It was just lots of mud, I imagine.
It was just dense. And the first climb, which wasn't even a big climb, and it was just chucking down a rain. It's just a river, really. And it's like water's probably up to your ankles whilst you climb up the river. So I cut myself like a little stick, and I had like 3 points of contact every single time. It was terrible. My legs were just spasming. It's simply just because of the effort that I was putting in, and it was gnarly, man.
It was gnarly. Now, and so let's get some of the basic facts from where you left in Jurado to get up to Jaque in Panama. How far is it in sort of miles or kilometers, and how many days did it take?
I aimed the route from what I was mapping at about 65 miles. I was expecting to do if I followed my route exactly, but that's from bird's eye imaging, and that's from the knowledge and the map. But once you're on the ground, you don't account for the rivers, you don't account for the climbing, you don't account for the deadfall, you don't account for any of that. But it was just first of all we had to catch a boat to a community that would look after us, because there was 6 Indian communities that wouldn't even touch us because it was such as like the group is going to cause trouble from them with the groups, and there was only one. I forgot the name of the village. I have written it down. Santa Teresa or something like that, and they were the only ones that said, yeah, we'll do it if you pay us, and I think that's what added up the funds.
So you paid them, and then how many days was the crossing?
So the boat was just 1 day, and the full thing was 4 days, as in 3 days walking and 1 day on the boat. And I expected to be more than that. I planned for more than that, but it was just a sheer pace. The guide set, he was doing 15 miles the first day, and it was just, he set the pace because he's so familiar with it. And he was just up and down. And I've got videos of that, me saying he's just set pace, and I've gained his respect. And then an hour later, I'm like, no, I don't have no respect for me no more. But it was like 15 miles. So then it worked out to about, I think we ended up doing about 50 miles, and that was the full crossing on the Pacific side.
And now this one, it's an indigenous town, allowed you to be there. 6 didn't. I mean, that's an amazing fact in itself. Did you come into contact with any of the Clan del Golfo?
We seen 2 people walking back. It was all in wellies, and it was assumed. Now, one had I mean, it's easy enough to carry guns in that part of Colombia anyway, and the one did have a gun in his waist bag, and he was looking at me and laughing at me because I'm at the size of my rucksack, and I just didn't engage in a conversation. I've got footage of the guide, because this was on the first day coming back into Colombia. As they've obviously just passed traffic, took someone over, and they've came back on themselves. He had a brief conversation, but I didn't even stop 5 minutes talking to him. I just carried on, and they just laughed at me and telling me such a large bag I've got.
Do you think that he laughed at you because he thought you weren't going to make it because of that big bag?
Yeah, the loma, they call them lomas, and I didn't know what a loma was. And with my Spanish, it's climbs or upwards or higher than ground level. And he's like, the next loma, proxima loma, is very difficult. I'm like, okay. Just carried on.
So, but at no point did you feel then, when you passed this guy with a gun in his belt or whatever, you didn't feel threatened at any point?
No, not from their behavior, but I think being, like I say, I've experienced certain things like that anyway. Within Colombia, you can see people carrying guns, and it's never been an aggressive thing. It's just, I think it's a cultural thing because it's such an issue in that part of Colombia. But no, like, I never felt threatened by them. They never even had a conversation with me, and I just, like I said, carried on.
They weren't in camouflage or in.
No, they was in Wellington boots, and that was a big quiz on the end. Like I said, they would get that with the centre front telling me what certain people wear, and he assumed it was cool.
Yeah, the guerrillas normally wear the Wellington boots. They're the ones known for it. So, but they laughed at you, which I would take. I would take that as positive. They don't see you as a threat. And so, I've seen some of the footage. I've seen some of the clips you put on, I think, Instagram and on Twitter, and it's pretty, or on Facebook. It's pretty hardcore. I'm not going to lie. And there's one. I guess it's in the rain. You might be crossing a river in the rain, or it might have been at
Yeah,
night. No, it's at night or in the afternoon in the rain, and you're just going,
yeah,
it's raining and it's raining.
yeah.
I mean, what about did you get, I want to say leeches, mosquitoes, sandflies, what else?
Yeah, the flies was a massive problem. They didn't stop. They didn't stop. But there was big ones as well. And I didn't have any names for them. Just large flies, large, and they would literally draw blood from you. Mosquitoes were just tenfold every day. You can hear them buzzing whilst you're in my hammock, and they're getting right up against the netting. You can hear them, and yeah, that was in the day. It just kind of I just ended up getting used to them. I just carried on walking. I didn't even start swatting my head or nothing. And the last day I wore shorts because all the rest of my clothes was the only dry clothes, and my expectation was this is going to be the last day now, so I'm going to be as comfortable as I can, try and build my morale. But that was, like I say, a rookie error. And my legs was in tatters, my hands was in tatters.
And you haven't got any, tropical diseases yet. You don't know if you come down with anything.
I've had blood tests. I've had blood tests like I do when I come back from
everywhere,
wherever, especially all the time. I'll have blood tests, but there's nothing been picked up.
All right, that's okay. No leishmaniasis or any particularly nasty things. I hope you don't. I mean, they take a little bit of time to appear, but I hope there's nothing. Good. So okay. So you probably saw the clan. You were up there, and I mean, okay. Now I was on your sort of, let's say, emergency call or check-in list. I'm flattered to be so. I don't know what I would have done had anything happened, but I would have helped. I got a message on Twitter from one of your brothers, I think.
Yeah.
Have you heard from Dan? This is Sam. I think his name's Sam, right? Is he a boxer?
Yeah, the younger brother.
Yeah, looks. I checked out his Twitter profile. It's quite terrifying with all those tattoos. But I was like, no, in my head, I was like, we could just send that guy down. He'll sort them all out. But so I was on there, and then you called me. I can't remember what day it was, like a Monday, I think. You actually called me and said, I've hit the Hake River or whatever, and so I'll be at a community soon. And you said, worst thing I've ever done. I think that's the words you said. And so really, really, definitely the worst thing you've ever done.
Yeah. As in, like, I didn't enjoy one part of the journey at all. I'm glad I did it. Over the moon, that because it took so much of preparation, so much of my life, so much worry from family. But unless they pay me £20,000, I would not do that again. I wouldn't. It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, and so we talked a little bit why you had to do it and so on. And I mean, I guess you're the first Brummie or the first Brit to have done it. I mean, in all your research, apart from the local guys who obviously run it back and forth, who else? I mean, whose footsteps were you following in, or have you been charting something new?
I think parts of it, they're Treacherous, another new word that I learned, Treacherous.
Yeah,
they're illegal routes back and forward, and he's like, no, there's an influx of Venezuelans now. For the last year, they're starting to go to the Pacific side because the Caribbean side is so chocker, so full up. So I get messages on Instagram probably weekly from people that have seen me on YouTube asking me how I travel from the Darien on the Pacific side. I can literally screenshot, and people from back in the Syria, Sudan, and they're asking me how I did it. So, and I think it's gonna go the same way as the eastern side soon enough. But at the minute, I think he said he's seen 30 people this year that have gone to that area to try and cross over. And I don't know how successful it was, but you see strewn bits of clothes. Like I found an ID as well, and Venezuelan identification. And like I say, that's the only memory that I could bring back, because the centre front never let me bring my machete or my walking stick. They just took it aside. So that's literally.
So you've actually got the Venezuelan ID?
Yeah, I have. It's got it. I mean, I mean, I assume she's okay. I hope she's okay.
Well, I
Yeah,
hope so.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
boy, I hope she's okay. What's her name?
yeah.
What's it? Hold it up
It
again. Let's see
is.
her name. Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it closer? There we are. So it's Mare de Gomez, Stephanie Daniela Mare de Gomez,
yeah, yeah,
married, born 29th of the 12th, 2004.
yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. Thank you
I
for that.
know. Yeah,
But I mean, that's people. I'm terrified of losing my ID, and if I was Venezuelan,
yeah,
I'd be more so. So one
yeah,
only can hope and pray that she did get across, because
yeah,
given you were trained, I mean, you were
yeah,
carrying stuff like your hammock, mosquito net, your machete,
yeah,
you had things, and you had a GPS, and so on and so forth. These Venezuelans who are looking for a better life have nothing.
yeah.
They take
No,
what they can on their back, and it's not a lot.
no.
But
And they in Hake at the end, a group. There was two of them that had been just put there for
yeah.
3 4 months. Had just been held there, and they
Mm.
invited me to a little party. They was having a party. I think their mentality is it's like they've been held there, but they're so much happier.
Mm.
And there was enjoyed playing music, typical Latin culture. They're just partying, enjoying me, asking if I'm bored because I get to walking, doing paces around the town, and like inviting me up to their balcony. But
They
yeah,
must have just thought you were very strange as well.
yeah,
There's like, this guy's done this
yeah,
for pleasure and for a
yeah,
challenge, whereas we're. And so I'm curious about this. Now you've done it. You did the 50 miles up and
yeah.
down the Lomas. You really suffered. I think you're not going to do it again. But
Uh,
with what end? I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, you took a lot of footage that, of course, we
yeah.
haven't seen. Is there a TV deal in the making?
Yeah, so I've met up with National ITV here in the
Mm-hmm.
UK, and they're gonna with the footage that I've got, it's probably about 2.5 hours worth of footage, so it's about 80 gig I've got. So I've just constantly recorded loads of little bits, river crossings, snakes that I've come across, people that I've come across, interactions, and they said they can 100% do minimum 2 pieces out of it in like a news special, but they're trying to aim for 3.
Mm-hmm.
But the part is because I got abandoned by the guide as well on day 2. He just he just said, I've got to go, I'll get arrested. And he said, at least we can do one part to when you got abandoned, and then we can pull a cliffhanger saying what happened now, because I've got that on footage. But I couldn't really be grumpy with my guide because he'd just leave me in the jungle and not help me out in directions. I can't just argue with my page to take me to show me where Hake is, and you're not showing me. I just pretended like I was cool and calm, but really I was in shock. Like, oh my gosh,
So,
no. But
I mean, this guy, and I think I got his name from you, but we're not going to say it. This guy said, I'm
yeah,
going to get in trouble. I'm going to get arrested. And he
yeah,
abandoned you like at the end of day one or the beginning of day two.
yeah. Beginning of day 2.
He just said, I'm going.
I've got to go. I will get arrested. I'm wanted in Panama for trafficking and bringing like things over. I can't go no further. And I'm like, just show me Hake. Just show me Hake. It's like, I can't show you Hake. If go down the hill, turn right at the river, follow the river, and that's the Hake River. Obviously, it's like, all right, get bottom of the hill, turn right at the river. The river was going the wrong direction to start with. So I was lost in the jungle then. So then I followed the river probably 7 miles down, and then I seen another cut into the jungle, and then I followed that then, and luckily backtracking on my steps, following the river back and forward. And that's when I said, I've got to, because it was quite late, maybe 4 o'clock when I set a camp. I don't want to be wandering around at night in the jungle. And I said, that's when I was all emotional. I was thinking, I need to get out tomorrow. I've got to. So I was like, keep this 15-mile pace, and I should be fine for regarding what the GPS says. Yeah.
So you had to backtrack on that
Yeah,
part.
countless times. Up when I got to the river, when I walked up the river, putting trust in the guide, and it was going against the flow
Yeah.
of. No, you need to follow the river to get to the coast, and it was just—it's not even a big river where I got to, and
Yeah.
the Hake River is huge. I was like,
Yeah.
this can't be right. So it's like a tributary of the Hake River,
Right.
and I had to follow that and then cut back into the jungle. And luckily, I had machete, I had emergency ration food, or I'd be there now, still wandering around.
And when you say you got emotional, did you sort of just break down and cry? Or, I mean,
Yeah, I
what
think
kind of
it's just like,
emotion?
yeah, emotion. I don't deal with emotion as in like I don't feel like it benefits me. As in like I don't feel like emotion benefits me, so I try not to do it. But when you're there and I'm stuck, and I was
Mm.
like, I've got to kind of really then
Yeah. hard. I mean, hard. And
Yeah,
that's when you're going up against this kind of geography, and of course the mental strength which is required. But let's talk about the geography again. I mean, how thick was it? I mean, whether was the jungle? I know you were going through Treacherous,
yeah.
but on either side, was the jungle like impenetrable?
Yeah, it was dense, huge trees, but there's little like there's plants that will just cut you. There's like I call it razor grass. It probably ain't the right term really,
Mm.
scientific, but it's grass that is like a razor blade, and your hands get caught in it. Last year I got caught in it doing like a walking just the Bonadito from Jurado,
Mhm.
and this year I was just it was terrible. My hands was in ribbons.
So the guy, and also the guy abandoned you beginning of day two. So you had two
Yeah,
days alone.
yeah, yeah,
This is a serious test. I mean, not only,
yeah.
I mean, I said physically, mentally, but was there any ever a moment you thought I'm going to turn around and go back?
I couldn't. I think he couldn't quit that situation because I think in my mentality is like you either sit here and do nothing and it's gonna be the end of you really if you don't do nothing. But going back, it was probably longer
Mm,
than continuing going forward.
mm.
Really, as in like the distance that I've made, and then going back up them two hills, as in like them two lomas as well. I was like, I'd think it would have took me to bits. But I was close in doing like the SOS on the PL on the locator beacon as well. I had it out and I was like, I'm gonna, but I get to the river and I see how I feel. And
All
then at the
right.
part where I just jump, I'm just sitting in the river then, just soaking. And I was like, water and food, and see how I figure in 2 hours time.
So if you'd hit the SOS beacon, would that go to the Navy and that go to me?
Well, yeah, yes, it would have, but it wouldn't have worked simply because on my return, when I got back, there was only 11 coordinates that was mapped. So when I got back and got in touch with them, technical thing, it was out for 6 days. That service, but I mapped it through my watch, my Garmin watch, and my Garmin map as well. So the emergency locator beacon was defunct, and I've got that as like a chat transcript from Global Star saying it was out in Panama and Colombia for 6 days from the 25th to the 31st or the first of this month, and I was like, well, that when I'm trying in the process of getting my money back now, refund.
Well, so hang on a second. It was out for the exact days that you were
Yeah,
crossing.
yeah. What are
I,
the odds in that?
you can laugh about it now. I mean, you can laugh about it, and I hope you get
Yeah,
your money back because that's kind of
yeah.
credible.
And
Your life is hanging in that.
yeah, and that's what my argument is. And that's why you only got one. I am sleeping here.
Mm,
That's one thing. And my two other people in the emergency thing, they only got one as well, and there was
mm.
panicking. And that's why, like, my brother was chasing you because I told him that I've got you, and there's another person in the UK
All right.
that's got all the information, the insurance details, and it was like, "Have you seen him? Have you seen him? Have you heard from him?" And then,
No.
yeah,
Well, I got a message, and then the next, I got a message from him. I guess it was day two, and
yeah,
then I guess it was late or day four or day three that you called me. It was over breakfast,
yeah,
and I was like looking at this number. I was like, "What the hell's this?" And then I realized,
yeah. It's like
and then I was this Birmingham accent that came through, and I was like, "Oh yeah," it's a new. So then I sent a message straight to your brother and just had just heard
yeah,
from him, and you said, "I found that I can see a boy fishing,
yeah,
so I know the community is close."
yeah.
Oh wow!
Yes, and
So
I
did
got
you
that
go up and
all
talk to
on.
that? Did you
Yeah, I
talk to the
shouted
boy?
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I shouted him, and he was like, cross the river." And I'm like, the river, the Hake River. Now, bearing in mind, it's huge and it's normal to them. And I've just walked 4 days in the jungle. I mean, I'm shattered. And I did try and cross the river, and the only time I dropped my bag without the plastic covering because I thought I wasn't even thinking. I was making silly mistakes. I was that tired. I was just not thinking. I didn't put my head on my shoulder and think, oh, I'll put the black bag on that because I've got the drone, I've got the satellite, I've got everything in there. And I dropped in the river like that. I just went mad. I went, for 4 days, no problem. But now I got a problem. And he's like, okay, I'll go and get a pirogue. I said,
Okay.
okay.
But so, I mean, that's it. You were that tired that the silly
Yeah, yeah,
mistakes were coming in, and
yeah, yeah.
you're an error dropping your bag in, that's
Mm,
it. It's that goes a long way to show how tough it really was.
yeah.
Now you've mentioned ITV, and there might be some news pieces out on, but what's the end game of doing this? You want to become, I guess it's sort of like an expeditioneer.
Yeah. I think, like I say, I enjoy it all. I'm always thinking of the next trip or the next challenge, so to speak.
Mm,
I think I want to keep my Spanish because I haven't used it for 2 weeks since being back. Because I've only been back nearly 3 weeks now, and I'm going to get back on my lessons, make sure I'm still talking Spanish every single day. But it's going to be a Spanish-speaking country, or even just somewhere crazy like Papua New Guinea or Pakistan, or just somewhere that we can just notch it up just a little, or a flat area where there's lots of jungle.
But I mean, but you want jungle? What about high altitude, or what about desert area? I mean, or jungle is your thing.
I think I enjoy. I think my interest comes with the animals and stuff of the jungle. I think desert is a whole new challenge. I think places like Everest, as brilliant and as difficult as altitude training, altitude expeditions are, I feel there's a blueprint for them. There's a way to do it. If you want to go Mount Everest and you got the money to do it, you're gonna do Mount Everest, and you can't take the challenge away because it's a graft and it's as in like it's an aim for loads of people. But I think there's just a way to do it. So why do it? That's my logic.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's done, isn't it? It's not people do it and sign up for it, but I mean, obviously it's a huge challenge. So it's going to be jungle. You want to notch it up a bit. I wonder what's harder. One of my listeners said, "Oh, he likes dangerous stuff. Recommend Eastern Yemen. Please don't go to Eastern Yemen. It was a joke, but and I'm not taking responsibility for that. But you want a Spanish speaking place, okay?
Yeah, there's a little small country in Africa that speaks Spanish, and there's not much known about that. I think it's Guinea-Bissau.
Yeah,
it's the only Spanish-speaking African country.
Yeah.
So,
and the Western Sahara area, they would speak Spanish, wouldn't they? Because it did have Spanish colonial, I think. So I think there would be some Spanish, but it's a Sahara, so it's different. But I mean, there's so many things. And you did mention quickly the animals. You saw snakes. What else? What kind of snakes?
I think it was a viper. So I've got that on footage, and this was on the morning of the second day, and it was only small, and I wouldn't have spotted it. I would not have spotted it. And the guy, an hour just before we left, he's like, "Oh, snake. Should I kill it?" I'm like, "No, don't kill it. Because that's just what they do. They just straight away." And I was like, "No." So I've got it all on footage. Him asking me to kill him, but I've got the camera really close to it, and it's just there flicking its tongue out. And I haven't properly watched my footage because it's such a high bit rate that my laptop doesn't play it yet. But on a higher end laptop, I was like the ITV team I met last week, playing brilliantly. So I'm gonna watch it all properly without converting it and compressing the quality.
Was it venomous?
Yeah, he would have. Like I say, Bothrops, Aspas, so it's Furtherland, Storicipello, Culebra, he called it.
Culebra. But you had snake bite kit with you.
Yeah, well, it's different. It's hard. I think antivenom, you can't carry antivenom. You have to buy antivenom in the UK. You need a poisons license, but it don't last very long. But there's different first aid, different snakes, and that would have just added best way to prevent it. Get away, don't let it happen. Because you get bit by a viper, Furtherland, you can't put pressure on it. You have to, because it's a corrosive, so to speak, it rot your flesh. You get bit by a coral snake and a lapid species, and it's different process. But you get bit by a Bothrops or a coral snake in the jungle, probably not much you're going to be able to do, I don't think.
Did you see anything else?
Yes, scorpions, spiders. On the night, you can just see all the little eye shines. You can hear in one of the videos like the roar of something, and it's either a peccary or a jaguar. And I don't know. I'm going to send it to somebody to give me some sort of.
It's a big difference, though, the peccary and a jaguar.
But you don't want to meet them peccaries, or
no. I was in the jungle in Caquetá in southern Colombia, and where we were camping one night, and there was something sniffing around the camp. There was something that came around. Fortunately, I just went, I'm just going to close my eyes, and I went to sleep because I'm amazing at sleeping. I mean, that's that's one of my superpowers. But I don't know. I wouldn't do what you've done, and I am pleased that you've done it, that you're not going to do it again. You didn't become a statistic that we had to then, I didn't have to then, be a guest expert on news shows saying, well, Daniel was in touch. I tried to talk him out of it. He'd done that.
Yeah.
So please be careful. And I hope all the best for this next, whatever you do next, and ITV. One more question though. You got out on the Panama side.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, you have to sort of, what is it, do immigration or whatever. What did they say to you? Because they treated me like a criminal. As soon as I seen them in the village,
They literally they strip me off, clothes, bag, everything. They strip me, and then they treat me like a criminal for maybe an hour, 2 hours. But my legs, my feet are bleeding. I've lost toenails, and I mean, shattered. All my clothes are soaked through, and he's not caring. I'm trying to drink my water. He's telling me to put it down, and then after he realized I was just, I said, you need to look up my website. You need to do this. You need to do that. Not interested. And afterwards, they realized, and they brought another centre front guy who's learning English. So I was speaking to him in English. And then they dressed me up again, told me to put everything back in my bag and walk in as if I've just walked in. Then they started videoing me and taking pictures as like I was a celebrity. And I've got that because I put the camera here all the time. So as I've clicked it, he's there directing me how to walk, snapping pictures away. Oh yeah.
Well, I think you need to use that part, don't you? You need to use that part, which is kind of comical that they've then restaging your entry.
yes, exactly.
So you see, that's the thing. And I don't assume you didn't have an exit stamp from Colombia either. So
I was worried about that. So I was looking for a flight to get back out of Panama.
Yeah.
I was trying to go to Mexico but the flights was extortion because I don't have the COVID vaccine. It was hard to go to the US. You can't go to the US without it. So then I had to pay 1,500 quid for a flight from Panama to Bogota, 20 hours layover in Bogota, and from Bogota to London. And they didn't even look in my passport, and I was panicking about that. They didn't even look in my passport. I even got an exit stamp actually exiting Colombia from Bogota. They just ushered us all through because I don't know what was happening, but they didn't even look. But I was worried about that. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, because as you didn't get an exit stamp to go into Panama, then really, I mean, I guess they still had you listed as being in Colombia. So, on the online and the migration website, Migración, probably you didn't ring any bells, which is very much in your favor because they can be pretty tough. Definitely.
I'm really worried about that. Yeah.
So now, again, finishing up, we're going to see you then on ITV. And some other places, and then you hope to make a living from this.
Yeah, like I say, I hopefully get some. I have written one book about the one Guyana expedition that I did do, and that pays my drone insurance now. Just the royalty from that nice £6 a month pays my drone insurance. So hopefully I'll get another one. But it's a hard task writing a book. I'll have to get someone involved.
Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, Daniel, again, thank you for considering me as a person, as a point for contact. We have been a champion, if not the most positive champion, but we've been a champion of your expedition. And I'm glad you made it through. And I'm glad, it's an experience now from which you grow and you've obviously learned from it. And to have been abandoned for 2 days is something else. I mean, I don't even know. Like you said, it was emotional. I can only in fact, I can't even imagine. I'm trying to picture. I've got pictures in my mind from your social media clips, but to be doing it yourself, because it always looks like you're accompanied. Because I know you've got I guess you've got the sort of selfie stick or whatever you're recording on. So it always looks like there's someone there with you, but there's not. I mean, that's it. It's you alone.
Yeah. When the footage comes out and it's structured into a bit more creative than what I can do, you can see it puts the story into context, or the trip into context.
All right. Well, listen, what's your Instagram so people can follow on it?
So my Instagram is just my name, Daniel Eggington.
Yeah.
And which I'm most active on. Twitter is the opposite. It's Eggington Daniel. And like I say, I do use Instagram more than Twitter, just because it's much more user friendly. I think pictures focused.
Pictures. And so people, you can follow it in there, and of course you'll be releasing little by little more clips from the journey, and of course we hope to see further adventures and details of what's coming up next, because you're certainly carving out an interesting life for yourself doing these things. I'm not jealous though. I'll leave it to you. I'll leave it to you. But so thank you so much for sharing this experience, which was, has been a challenge, no doubt about it. But thank you. This has been the third time you've been on the show. You made it, third time lucky. Well done. Yeah, well done. Listen, and please always, think about the security of it all. Think about and I'm not recommending, at no point am I recommending here on the podcast that anyone should do this either. Daniel spent years researching this and had two false starts before his final one. And it also got tricky. So Daniel, thank you again for your time.
Appreciate it, Richard.
Yeah, real pleasure. We've been talking to Daniel Eggington, explorer, conquered, I guess we could say, conquered the Pacific side of the Darien Gap. This has been the Colombia Calling podcast. We'll go over to our sponsors. And of course, be sure to listen again next week. We'll be talking to more people, Colombia-related stories. Thank you and bye-bye.